Measuring the movements of the heavens has always proven difficult, but we have devised a method to better understand celestial motion.
When?
Soon. It's taken 100 years, but the time finally draws near. We shall see the return
of Sozin's Comet.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Netflix just released. This will be my video for the ending. I'll also talk about some of the bigger changes they made to the series, and there were a lot. I know there's a bunch of questions about what's going to happen with Book 2 or Season 2, Season 3. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. It's just like old times. It's just like me doing Korra videos back in the day. It's been more than 10 years since that came out. In fact, if you didn't realize, Mike and Brian's first animated Avatar: The Last Airbender movie will release in October 2025. It'll feature all of the Team Avatar characters in their late 20s, early 30s. Zuko's the oldest of all of them, but they're generally pretty close in age with a few exceptions. And even though most of you have probably seen the original series, and this was straight up adaptation of the original animated series with a bunch of changes, the ending was very similar. So I will say blanket spoiler warning just in case you haven't seen either the original series or the new Netflix live action episodes. Generally, the series itself kind of needs to be treated like its own separate thing, like it was very different than the original, but one of the exceptions to that, big surprise, is that the final episode, The Siege of the North, was basically the closest, like a one-to-one adaptation of the original finale. Most of the episodes during Season 1 had very, very big changes, but generally the finale pretty close to exactly how the original Book 1 finale went down. There are a couple of dialogue changes, and they sped up a couple of plot twists at the very end of the episode that originally happened during Book 2, Episode 1, but we'll go through those. Admiral Zhao kills the Moon Spirit like he did during the original version, causing Aang to merge with the Ocean Spirit, turning them into the Kaiju-inspired giant-sized Ocean Spirit attacking the Fire Nation army. This entire part of the episode was exactly like the original version. That whole black and white color shift with the only color coming from the elements, the actual bending like water and fire, was also how they did it originally. This whole sequence in the original version was also meant to be inspired by classic kaiju Godzilla movies. Aang was meant to be kind of like a water spirit Godzilla wrecking the Fire Nation army. So if you watched the live action version of this recently and you're like, this seems kind of like a Godzilla movie, it was meant to be that way in the original. Just like the original series, the Ocean Spirit kills Zhao by dragging him under the waves. They brought the character back during Legend of Korra episodes and revealed that his spirit had been doomed to walk the fog of lost souls in the spirit realm, yelling about the Avatar for the rest of time. So RIP Zhao, pour one out for him. We'll say hi to him if they ever do a live-action version of Legend of Korra. Zuko and Iroh's ending was fairly similar to the original version, but they sped up some of the plot points. Their final conversation about Zuko being tired, Iroh telling him he needed rest, was right out of the original.
I'm tired.
Then you should rest. A man needs his rest.
I'm tired. Then you should rest. A man needs his rest.
They actually did this kind of thing in a lot of the episodes where they just copy-paste dialogue from the original version to the new characters. This is meant to be set up for them to go AWOL from the Fire Nation army, traveling to the nearby Earth Kingdom village, eventually traveling to Ba Sing Se, where they hide out pretending to be normal citizens, trying to leave their former lives behind. Also trying to hide out from the Fire Nation army in Azula, who's been looking for them. So here in this moment when Zuko is basically telling Iroh that he doesn't want to go back to the Fire Nation army, like, I'm tired, I want to go think about my life. Iroh is actually relieved. He'd actually been hoping that Zuko would do something like this for a long time, like he'd give up his quest to capture the Avatar and they could just go live a quiet, peaceful life that had absolutely nothing to do with Fire Lord Ozai, just leave it all behind. So when they go to Ba Sing Se and set up Iroh's tea shop, that is literally Iroh's dream scenario for the two of them that he'd been hoping Zuko would get on board with these past couple of years that he'd been in exile. Princess Yue's ending with Sokka was also just like the original. His girlfriend turns into the moon. That is totally rough, buddy, so pour one out for her, even though technically she's not dead. She's just going to be unavailable for the majority of all time and is only back on Earth in physical form for like one night on very rare occasions, so not much of a future in that relationship for everybody wondering what ultimately happened to Sokka after the events of Book 3. I'm kind of hoping that they never answer that question during the live-action version, like just leave that for when they do the animated Team Avatar movie next year with the older versions of the characters, then you can get into what happened to Sokka after the events of Book 3. Early odds right now are that he eventually got together with Suki. And Suki does come back into the story in future seasons of the actual show, so odds are that they'll double down on their relationship in like Season 2, Season 3. When Katara tells Aang that he'll learn earthbending next after waterbending, that's to set up the events of Season 2 and them meeting the Toph character, which will probably happen by the end of Episode 1. Like, Aang either gets a vision of Toph like he did in the original version, or he literally runs into her and then boom, end of the episode. And what they'll probably do at the beginning of Season 2 with Team Avatar is that either they'll coincide him running into or seeing Toph for the first time with them trying to go back to Omashu, then learning that it's actually fallen to the Fire Nation, and then making a beeline for Ba Sing Se, because technically Toph is from Ba Sing Se. It'd be kind of weird if he ran into her around Omashu, like, what are you doing way over here? So my early theory is that they actually eventually go to Ba Sing Se during the events of Episode 1, and that's where they get the vision of, or they run into Toph, and they try to get the help of the Earth King, and that's also where they'd run into Zuko and Iroh again. Because essentially, there's not much point in them going back to Omashu, even though they did do that in the original events of Book 2, Episode 1. Like, they go back first, then he talks to King Bumi, then they leave again because it's still under capture of the Fire Nation. They might just cut that part out during Season 2 of the Netflix series. Getting to one of the other big changes here during these ending scenes, Fire Lord Ozai in the Netflix version didn't care about the loss in the North because he'd intended for it to be distraction, allowing Azula's forces to win Omashu. During the original series, though, he had been furious at the loss, and it was the whole reason why he set Azula loose, and she entered the story as a big antagonist during Book 2. Originally, he blamed the loss in the North on Iroh and Zuko and ordered Azula to capture them and bring them back to the Fire Nation, which is why they went on the run and hid out in Ba Sing Se for a much longer period. One of the other huge changes during Season 1, and there were many, is that they made Azula a much bigger character just in general. So in the Netflix version, she leaves the Fire Nation much earlier, specifically to lead the capture of Omashu. In the original version, she's named Ozai's de facto heir. And Ozai subsequently gave her the personal army, like those forces that are with her, to hunt down Zuko and Iroh, and a separate force, like totally different group of people, goes to conquer Omashu. So essentially, they're condensing a lot of the story and combining a lot of storylines. They did a lot of stuff like this during Season 1, just generally trying to condense as much stuff down as possible. Really good example is like everybody and their sister showing up at Omashu at the same time. And you wound up with a bunch of characters there in the Netflix series that weren't there in the original version. There was also a bunch of subplots that they cut from Season 1 of the original series. They'll do the same thing for Book 2 and Book 3. So, for example, they might cut the events of Appa's lost days because he ran into Wan Shi Tong much earlier during Season 1, and the whole point during Book 2 is that he runs into her for the first time when they go to the library. That was meant to coincide with Appa's capture and the events of Appa's lost days. So don't be surprised that they just cut out that entire subplot. When they show Azula capturing Omashu at the end of the episode here, Aang does eventually visit Bumi again while he's locked up at the beginning of the season, and Bumi is part of the whole White Lotus organization with Iroh, but during his captivity, the whole idea is that Bumi wasn't worried at all. Like, he is completely nonplussed. Like, oh, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. We'll get Omashu back. It'll be no big deal. So they'll probably start teasing more of the White Lotus and his association with Iroh, because King Bumi and Iroh know each other as part of the White Lotus. Like, it's a big organization, but it's generally meant to be a secretive organization. There were a couple references to it during the events of Season 1. The symbol that Iroh dropped on his way out of Omashu when he'd been captured to help Zuko find him, that was the symbol of the White Lotus. The whole idea with the White Lotus organization is they were created to serve the Avatar during any given era in whatever way that they needed. That's why Iroh always seemed so nice when he was talking to Aang and was always trying to help him escape when he was near. And trying to get Zuko to chill on capturing him, because when Iroh was younger, he actually knew the Avatar Roku. Eventually, when Zuko becomes Fire Lord much later in his life, he also eventually joins the White Lotus and becomes one of the leaders. And during the end credits tag scene, the Great Fire Sage, played by Francois Chow, who's from Lost, there were a lot of Lost TV show actors on this series. Daniel Dae Kim was on Lost, so was Ken Leung, who played Zhao. And even though I've said it in previous videos, if you didn't realize, Daniel Dae Kim had also previously starred in both the original Avatar: The Last Airbender animated series and again during Legend of Korra as different characters. There are a lot of original Avatar The Last Airbender series actors who came back to play characters in live action here, like Cabbage Man, for instance. During that end credits tag scene, the Great Fire Sage shows Ozai the special astrolabe they created to track Sozin's comet and chart its path and when it's going to come into Earth's orbit again. They reference the 100 years since it last appeared. It's a reference back to the episode 1 flashback with the genocide of the air nomads. On the show, Sozin attacked while the comet was still in orbit. In the original version, the comet had already come and left. But basically the idea is that the presence of the comet gives all firebenders on the planet a massive power upgrade. On the show, that's how they were able to overpower all the air nomads. Basically, the same thing is going to happen again during the events of Book 3 or whatever Season 3 of the Netflix show is going to be, enabling Ozai to finish conquering all 4 nations, or technically 3 because Aang is currently the last airbender, as the title of the show implies. There isn't really much of an air nation to be conquered. Speaking of Sozin's Comet, one of the biggest changes they made early on in the Netflix version of the show was to remove the whole subplot about the ticking clock of the arrival of Sozin's Comet, because in the original show, Book 1 to Book 3 took place over the course of about a single year. It was super quick start to finish. Aang learns from Roku that he had to learn to master all 4 bending elements so that he could enter the Avatar state consciously at will, otherwise he wouldn't be powerful enough to defeat Ozai once he'd gotten the power upgrade from Sozin's Comet. So this post-credit scene is essentially reminding everyone that Sozin's Comet is still a really important plot point, but it's not Aang's current driving force the way it was in the original series. Like, they're not referencing it every single episode. They said the reason they made this important change is mostly the long time period it's going to take to get the future seasons of the show out. The actual showrunner said what's probably going to happen is that because it'll be about 2 years before Season 2 comes out, the child actors will have grown so much that they'll have to write in a time jump between the events of Season 1 and Season 2 that wasn't there in the books. So basically the internal timeline of the show of Sozin's Comet will just get way longer than it was in the original version. They'll also probably have a time jump between the events of Season 2 and Season 3, so that by the end of Season 3, the TV show live-action version of Aang will look like an older teenager. Like, wow, the Avatar state, did that make you taller? Look how much bigger you are than you were during Season 1. As opposed to the original Avatar The Last Airbender series when he still looked like a tiny little kid because he'd only been about a year. As far as I know, they haven't cast anyone for the Toph character yet. They'll probably wait to do that till they actually greenlight Season 2 if they haven't done it already. Sometimes they'll do that, like they'll greenlight it, but they just won't announce it till like a couple weeks after the show premieres. But essentially, the show has the same problem that they have on Stranger Things with like the kids just getting old way too fast, them not getting seasons out quick enough. Better hurry up or you're gonna have an Avatar who's like 18 years old with a 5 o'clock shadow. There's a whole bunch of other Easter eggs, references, and changes to the original series. I'll try to do a much bigger video for all the episodes in the next couple of days, so make sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. And if there are any questions that you have about the different episodes or any plot points or characters, just write them in the comments below and I'll try to add them to that video. Generally, the plan for all Avatar things is that Mike and Brian are releasing that new animated movie with the adult team Aang next year. They're also in the middle of making a brand new Avatar series with the next Avatar after Korra, who'd be an Earthbender. They didn't say when that's going to release, but my guess is it'll be a little while after the brand new movie releases. So there'll be a brand new animated Avatar series and a brand new live-action series that will run concurrently. Mike and Brian are also supposed to be making a couple new movies, like there's supposed to be a Kyoshi movie and a Zuko movie at some point too. So generally, Avatar fans are eating good right now. They think there's a lot of really animated new stuff coming and a lot of the live-action stuff coming too. There's a bunch of big stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks too. Click here for my new X-Men 97 trailer. I'll be doing episode videos for that, and Invincible Season 2 Episode 5 trailer. Also episodes for that dropping around the same time. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.